This is G-Free Radio. Here's your host, Peter Stewart.
Hello, I'm Peter Stewart, and this is what is in episode 39 of the G-Free Radio show this week. Well, still stuck in winter here in London, summer seems a very long way off this side of the equator, so I thought we'd warm ourselves up with some comfort food. This week we talk to the people behind a range of gluten-free pies, such as Minty, Chickpea and Lentil and Olive. They sound delicious, don't they? And we conclude our breakfast cereal series with some crunchy breakfast treats from the Netherlands. In medical news, the report from Sweden which suggests that maternal gluten sensitivity could be linked to a risk of schizophrenia in children, and the suggestion that a gluten intolerance could lead to new food allergies later on in your life. Now, how do you cope with asking for a substitution in a restaurant? And what's been the reaction? Okay, so you want to swap the fries for a rather more safe baked potato. That should be okay, shouldn't it? But would you expect to pay more? There's a report from CNN in this week's show. And as we continue our look at alternative grains and flours, we focus on what's being called the world's most important plant. The US produces 19 billion pounds of the stuff, and there are more than 100,000 varieties that you can choose from. Do you know what it is? You will by the end of episode 39 of the G-Free Radio show. So we'll start off this week with that report from Sweden which talks about maternal gluten sensitivity, which could be linked to a schizophrenia risk in children. In other words, babies born to women with a sensitivity to gluten who appear to be at an increased risk of developing schizophrenia and other psychiatric disorders later in life. This is according to new findings from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden and the Johns Hopkins University in the United States. Now, I don't know about you, but I've read several times of something similar about maternal infections and other inflammatory disorders during pregnancy, which have been linked to a greater risk for schizophrenia in those mothers' offspring. But the study in the American Journal of Psychiatry is the first to point to maternal food sensitivity as a possible culprit in the development of such disorders later on in life. This from ki.se on the internet. The results of the study show that children born to mums with abnormally high levels of antibodies to gliadin had nearly twice the risk of developing non-affective psychosis later on in life compared with children who had normal levels of gliadin antibodies. The risk for psychosis was not increased among those with elevated levels of antibodies to casein. The link persisted even after researchers accounted for other factors known to increase schizophrenia risk, things like the mum's age, gestational age, birth by caesarean section, birth weight, those kinds of things. And Dr. Hakan Carlson, who led the study with Dr. Christina Dalman, both of the Karolinska Institute, said there are studies in the past that show that people diagnosed with schizophrenia more often than others are suffering from various forms of immune responses to gluten. We will now conduct follow-up studies to clarify how gluten, or sensitivity to it, increases schizophrenia risk and whether it does so only in those genetically predisposed. All very, very interesting stuff. That research funded by the Stanley Medical Research Institute and the Swedish Research Institute and Stockholm County Council. And as I say, really interesting stuff. There have been similar reports in the past, but that's the first one I've come across, certainly in recent months, which goes as far as that one does. So a possible maternal gluten sensitivity link to schizophrenia risk in the children of those mums. Okay, worrying stuff, but interesting. And as we often say on the show, knowledge is power. Some of that knowledge can be a little bit uncomfortable. Some of it can be quite worrying. Please don't worry unnecessarily. Again, speak to a health professional. But I always reckon it's best to know about these things, and then you can ask more questions and you can investigate, you can discover, you can try and work out a cause. If there's anything you can do about it, you can find out more information. You can guard against some of these things if possible. Or if you'd prefer to be in the dark, fingers in the ears, la 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 la, can't hear anything, that's up to you. That's up to you. I'm passing on the information. You can do with it as you choose. Now, many people don't realise that a gluten intolerance can actually lead to new food allergies later on in life. Not my words, the words of AtlantaBlackStar.com. It's quite a lengthy article, but I shall pass on the link. Well, I already have passed on the link to you. That's, as I say, from Atlanta Black Star, and also Natural News as well on the interweb. And it goes on to say that eating gluten before people realise they're allergic can lead to a condition called leaky gut syndrome, something that you may have heard of but not be totally familiar with what it is. The intestinal wall has several important jobs, including keeping undesirable food particles out of the bloodstream and identifying whether an approaching molecule is friend or foe. Immune system cells along the intestines distinguish beneficial molecules like food particles or bacteria from unwanted bacteria or molecules that irritate the immune system. An unhealthy gut wall allows molecules that should not cross into the bloodstream to leak through. And intestines in a poor state of health may also be unable to tolerate substances like food proteins that it previously recognised as beneficial molecules. A compromised gut may identify food particles as an unwelcome invader and initiate an immune response, thus causing an allergic reaction that hadn't occurred when the intestines were healthy. So, what does that have to do with gluten? People whose bodies can't tolerate gluten experience an inflammatory response when they consume that protein. Chronic stress causes a breakdown in the lining of the intestines, leading to holes in the walls of the intestine that let substances leak through that should be kept out. Antibiotics can contribute to leaky gut syndrome by killing off the healthy bacteria in the gut, thereby allowing bad bacteria to grow in place of the good stuff. Lengthy article, more at Natural News on the internet. And you heard about it here on G3 Radio. Later on, 6 valid reasons to ask for a menu substitution, and also we'll conclude our series looking at breakfast cereals. But first, boy oh boy, in our neck of the woods, it's certainly winter, and boy, we know about it as well in the Northern Hemisphere. Certainly been very, very wet across Christmas and into the new year, and of course those huge snowstorms in the United States as well. But summer, it may seem a long way off, but we've got spring to come yet. And if you're in the southern hemisphere and you're listening to us, you know, your turn will come. It's going to get chillier for you as well, guys. Don't be too cocksure in your attitude, but it's just the kind of time that you want to hunker down, turn up the heating, close the curtains / drapes wherever you are, and tuck into some comfort food like a good gluten-free pie. Sally Carson is from the fabulously named company called Clive's Pies.
We've got gluten-free vegetarian pies. Most of them are gluten-free, wheat-free and dairy-free.
So you've got some people having a taste test here. Tell us what the different flavours are that you've got going, because these are a bit different. It's not just turkey pie or beef pie or something like that, is it?
No, they certainly are different. All our recipes come from sort of different corners of the world. So this one here is an aloo gobi, which is a curried potato and vegetable in a coconutty sauce. Then we have a French cassoulet, which, as the name suggests, is a French recipe. It's haricot beans with shredded cabbage, onions, garlic and bits of chestnut. Very rich, very tasty. Then we have Minty chickpea. Now this one's a bit of an Arabian type recipe. It has mint in it, it has apricots in it, so there's a bit of sweetness, but it's sort of chickpeas mixed in with some tomatoes and some onions and some carrot. It's really tasty, but a lovely bit of sweetness. And then we have the vegetable chili pie. This is, as you'd expect, chili but without the meat. So it's got the kidney beans and all the different vegetables. Then we have a lentil and olive. Now this is a lovely, lovely pie, lovely taste. It's got an olive pate in it, which means it's got a really, really deep flavour of olives. Mixed with lentils and a few vegetables, and all these pies are encased in a lovely gluten-free pastry, which is actually a very short pastry, so it's quite crispy, and we've been letting people taste it today, so little bits of pastry with some of the filling, and they've all been blown away. It's been fabulous.
They really are deep filled, because you can be shortchanged by other pies on the market, can't you?
Yeah, you can. We hand fill ours, so we have an ice cream scoop, and somebody takes the scoop out of the bucket, slices the top off and fills the pie, so you know that every pie has got a proper scoop, full of filling. It's great.
Now, these pies here are, to use your word again, filling, and particularly, I would guess, something that you would want to have as a hearty meal in winter time. Yeah. But I guess people aren't going to be buying these in the heat of the summer, when they're perhaps more into the salads and the lighter meals. Yeah,
I mean, you'd be surprised. A lot of people still are buying these gluten-free pies, because for people that are celiac or, are avoiding dairy or wheat in their diet, at lunchtime it's very difficult for them to get something for lunch. You can't just pick up that sort of product in a store in the high street. So a lot of people are still eating, the pies through the summer months. But also we have another range of our range of dips that, do allow people to have something also that's really healthy and tasty through the summer as well. So we can fill both markets.
And also you've got some pots here as well. So these are plastic pots with, are they the fillings from you've got over here? No, they're different.
They're completely different fillings. The reason these came about is that people said to us, we really love your pies, but we're trying to cut back on our pastry intake. And they said, can you put the filling into a pot and sell it as a pot meal? And I said, no, we'll do better than that. We'll just redesign and recreate 4 new fillings. And so that's what we've got. So we've got a Moroccan tagine, we've got a Thai veggie curry, a dookie bean stew, and a Mediterranean ragu. They're all made with lovely fresh ingredients. We get all our vegetables from Riverford Organics, which are down about 2 miles from where we're based in Buckfastleigh. We hand prep it in our own kitchens, we hand prep all our own veg, and they're really, really tasty.
And how are people eating these? Is it with jacket potatoes or rice, or how does that work?
Well, funny enough, you see a lot of people just eating them out of the pot with a spoon. But yes, if you take them home for an evening meal, it is perhaps a bit of rice or couscous or quinoa or something a lot of people share it between 2 of them. So they'd have half a pot each with some vegetables and a bit of potato or something like that. And
I was reading on your website that unlike perhaps a lot of produce, you don't have a weight on your pies, but there's a reason for that, isn't there, which is rather nice.
There is a reason for that. The weight thing has always been an issue, and we do get a lot of communication from our customers about it. But the problem with the pies is you can actually never guarantee what size, what weight they're going to be. So, for instance, all the lids are hand rolled, and so some of them are a bit thicker than others, and that can make the difference of 10, 20 grams on a pie. And because they are hand filled, so when you scoop it, it might not be that you get a completely level scoop, and some might be slightly domed, and so they are all going to be different weights.
And it does just show that it is handmade. It's not mass-produced with a machine.
No,
you have some machines, surely. You're not rolling out the pastry by hand.
Well, we're rolling the lids by hand.
Are you?
We're rolling the lids by hand, but the pie machine actually forms the base of the pie, and then we put the hand-rolled lid on the top. But yes, the pie is actually made in a machine that presses out the base and then seals and cuts the top of the pie and the excess pastry off.
Now, I saw you last year and I bought a couple of your pies as well, because I kind of had to, because you couldn't buy them anywhere else. Everything's changed, doesn't it, in the last 12 months?
Well, it's been a very, very interesting 12 months, I have to say. We managed to get ourselves listed on the Ocado website. And on the Ocado website, you can now find all our pies, all our gluten-free cakes, all our dips, and all our pot-off meals, which has been fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
And we didn't even talk about your cakes. There's some fantastic-looking ones over there, but also some rather large ones, because you're doing something else that I haven't seen anyone else do at the show this year with your larger cakes.
We are. We've been very fortunate. A lot of people have come back to us and said, I've got customers that have eaten your cakes, the little mini cakes, and said, can you get a bigger version? And so people are buying it for their deli counters, for their cafes, for their restaurants, and having it as a dessert or with a cup of coffee. And we've got a number of shops that do this now, which is lovely, really lovely.
So where do you go from here?
Oh, difficult question. Very difficult question.
Is it more flavours of pies, or is it extending the range of something else?
I don't know. I think we've got to work harder at getting the pies to the people. Sounds a bit of a cliche, pies to the people. But that's, I think, what we need to do, because, I need to be able to guarantee that somebody that lives in northwest 6 can actually go within a 2 or 3 mile radius and be able to buy our pie, and I can't do that at the moment. So I think we've got to put a lot of energy into getting our London market a bit better served. So whether or not we need to think about, something that's actually working for us in London, which we've never done before, but that might be an option, because it's vital that people can actually get hold of our pies. They taste them, they love them, they need to be able to buy them, and buy them conveniently. What's, for our point of view, quite fascinating is that there's so much sweet stuff, and I think the sweet things is what's dominating the market, and I think there's still a lot of potential for the savoury side to grow. And so whether that does mean that we might venture into, gluten-free pizzas, or I don't know. But my priority really is making sure that we can get the product out around to the independent supermarkets or other supermarkets so that people can buy them.
This is G-Free Radio.
So have you worked out yet what that alternative grain/flour is that we're going to be talking about a little bit later on in episode 39 of the G-Free Radio show? It's cheap, it's plentiful, it certainly fills you up, it inspires some of the finest culinary creations around the world, and yet it's very, very humble, quite cheap as well, very, very cheap. Do you know what it is? We'll be telling you a little bit later on in the programme. And also, the other side of this next item, we're going to be hearing about a breakfast cereal from the Netherlands that you may not have tried before. So we're going to be tempting your taste buds with Rose's Foods in a few minutes' time. First of all, I thought this was really interesting. 6 valid reasons to ask for a menu substitution from CNN, this particular article. And it says that too much of the restaurant-going world, chefs seem to have exchanged "the customer is always right" with another saying, "no substitutions." Have you noticed this when you go to a particularly kind of high-class / expensive restaurants? You see those 2 words at the bottom of your menu and you think, oh my goodness, no, dear, oh dear, this is going to be a right pain. It's going to be really, really difficult. It sours the mood. It sours your palate before you've even taken the first bite, before you've even chosen what it is on the menu. It's kind of preemptive, isn't it? It's kind of passive-aggressive. I mean, you wouldn't expect if you went into a hotel to see something saying, don't even think about asking us if you can stay in the room past 12 o'clock noon. Would you? You would think, oh, that's really kind of obnoxious. I hadn't even thought to say that or even ask it. You're denying me something before I've even thought about it. Yeah, passive-aggressive is what they usually refer to it as. But in this article, James Oliver Curry takes a look at where each side is coming from, whether you are the chef or whether or not you are the customer. So on the restaurant side, this is where he starts off. On the restaurant side, he says many chefs already strive to meet customer substitution demands. He quotes the soup or salad option, or the mix and match style of, here's your main and you can choose 2 or 3 entrees or veggies to go with it. I mean, technically, of course, the menu itself is a list of options, but, put that to one side. More important, many dishes require advanced preparation. They can't be easily undone. I mean, you can't take the egg out of a hollandaise sauce or something, but it is much easier to take the egg out of something else. Ham, egg and chips. How difficult is that? Or take the bacon from a BLT. You know what I'm talking about. Of course, then you've got the extreme chefs who view their dishes as kind of edible artworks. They're not going to compromise at all. You want to change that composition of perfectly balanced colours and textures and flavours on the plate. No. They're not going to go anywhere. Just apart from what is best for you, that's what they've decided 6 months ago. That's what they've created. No, they're not going to shift an inch on that. So, you want the balsamic glazed roasted beets instead of the locally foraged wild leeks. Well, no, you can't do that because then you're compromising my red and green makeup on the plate. You know what I'm talking about? OK, let's look at it from the dining public's side of the fence. After all, this is the paying customer, isn't it? Now, customers must realise they don't have to eat at a restaurant that doesn't serve the food the way they want it. You can't always go into a kind of greasy spoon cafe, can you? Where you get to explain exactly how you want the eggs prepared, for example. I mean, that's kind of comes as standard, doesn't it? How do you want your eggs? How do you want your steak? There are some foods you can say exactly how you want them, but in other places or with other foods you can't. I mean, it's not all Burger King, is it? Do they still have that slogan? Have it your way? They still do that? But you shouldn't expect to be able to take maybe the side from one dish, move it to another one, a kind of mix and match, a kind of jigsaw exercise. However, James Oliver Curry does say in this article by CNN that maybe there are some reasons, some circumstances that you should be able to change things around. So, big breath, slight cough, here they are.
1.
I'm allergic to.
2.
I'm lactose intolerant.
3.
I'm gluten-free.
4.
I'm vegetarian/vegan.
5.
I eat kosher/halal.
6.
I can't have alcohol. Well, those are the 6. Almost every other substitution demand that he can think of is childishly picky, he says. His words, not mine. And you know, that should stop most people making those kinds of requests. However, at the end of the day, would it really cause a problem if you ask for a jacket potato, a baked potato, rather than fries? Something like that? Well, rational compromise, I suppose. That's really, it is kind of compromise on both sides of the fence, isn't it? Or both sides of the kitchen counter, inside the kitchen and at the table. But it occurs to me, actually, that what you perhaps want to do is to have something on a menu that appeals to everyone, or at least most needs of all of those potential diners. Not all of the items on a menu for most people, but 1 or 2 items that virtually everyone can eat, or everyone can eat with a very, very slight and easy change. Do you know what I mean? So you would have something that you could easily substitute one meat for another, or take off that particular sauce, or put another bun in. I think you understand. Of course you do. And I've very often thought to myself that should be the case. There should be one easy menu item which is interchangeable that most people can have. You know, it's maybe vegetarian, that's fine. It doesn't have gluten in. There's 2 people. Right? It doesn't have nuts in. There's 3 sets of people already catered for. So maybe it's a fish dish, for example, made with a sauce that does not have wheat flour in, has corn flour, and nuts haven't been within a million miles of it. You know, automatically, it comes with new potatoes. There you go. I mean, it doesn't have alcohol in. That's something else. So, automatically you're saying that so many more people can have that and mark it up on the menu as such as well. Now, another thing that strikes me is, have you ever had to pay extra for making a substitution? I haven't, but I have heard that some people have done, and I suppose that is a way, not necessarily, well, yes, a way to make money, but also a way to put people off from asking for changes or substitution. You know, an extra £1.50 or $1.50 when you just want to make that change of sweet potato fries with mashed potatoes. Is that really necessary? What are your thoughts? Have you come across something like this? Why don't you drop me a line and let me know. It's gfreeradio@hotmail.com. G-Free Radio, G-Free Radio, G-Free Radio. Don't forget who we are and where we are. We are available at various different places. There's YouTube, of course. You can watch us via TV or via your computer if your TV is hooked up in that way. We're also on iTunes, so you can download us and listen to various episodes, all the archive episodes, which are available on iTunes as well. So you can download that to your smartphone, to your iPhone, and you can listen maybe when you're commuting or in the bathroom, or maybe when you're cooking or doing the housework or exercising, taking the dog for a walk, you know, the kind of thing. Anywhere, essentially, you can catch up on some of our shows. And we're also via G-Free gfreeradio.com, and if you click on there, it'll take you to our main hosting site, which is actually run by a company called Spreaker, like an audio speaker, a loudspeaker, but with an R in. Spreaker, that is where we are based. And if you scroll down all the episodes there, not only can you listen to them again and again and again, but also you can make a comment on the episodes and the content as well. In fact, wherever you listen, if you can make a comment, please do. If you want to give us any feedback via any of those platforms, as they say in the media world, that'd be fantastic. Or just drop us a line. It'd be fantastic to hear from you. gfreeradio@hotmail.com. What do you want more of or less of? Or if you want to make a comment about what someone else has said or one of the articles or one of the interviews, that would be brilliant. We really appreciate your support and you listening into us this week and in subsequent weeks as well. So for the past few episodes, we've been talking about various breakfast cereals. We kind of thought, didn't we, a few weeks ago, start of a new year, that kind of links in with the start of a day, so it'd be a good opportunity to talk about the first meal of the day when we break our overnight fast, when we have breakfast. So our series continues this week with a brand from Europe you might not have heard before. They're called Rose's Foods, and I'll tell you in a few moments' time where you can actually buy Rose's Foods from. They're online. They're not in the shops in the UK, but certainly you can buy them online. And recently at one of the Free From shows, I caught up with Simone van Lanen. She's managing director, no less, of Rose's Foods.
Well, we have a few mueslis, a few granolas and flakes and porridges, different types of porridge flavours, and kid cereals, of course.
Absolutely. Now, I should say that Rosie is serving at the same time as doing the interview, so she may be a little bit distracted time and again, quite rightly, because obviously selling is what it's all about here. Talk us through some of your range then. First of all, I mentioned the kids cereal. I love the packaging here.
Yeah.
Describe that to us.
Yeah, well, we have an owl and a monkey. The owl is with frosted cornflakes like the Frosties, and the monkey has Choco Pops. And the owl can pop up the ears, and the monkey can pop out the ears. So they look really cute, really for the children.
So the boxes actually change, and yeah, things pop out, as you say, to show those different characters.
Yeah,
and also your mueslis, I mentioned. Again, a few different flavours that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, we have a tropical muesli with a lot of flakes, very light and very full of fruit. And then we have a Swiss type muesli, an organic oat. It's organic with oats and with seeds and nuts and fruit. It's more for a really good breakfast in the morning, so you feel really full.
And I love the idea of the ginger and lemon. Really does appeal to me.
Yeah, it's not a muesli. It's like a type of granola, so it's baked. So we have a ginger and lemon one, which is really fresh, like a very summer muesli. And then we have an apple cinnamon one, more a wintry muesli. And we have one an oats granola with strawberries. It's very sweet, very nice.
And a couple of other flavours as well. I saw apple pie and cranberry and nuts. These are really different. I love the idea that you're finding some slightly different flavours rather than just fruit muesli, for example.
Yeah, that's what we want to be different than all the other. Of course, there are a lot of. We also have a normal plain oat muesli, as everybody else has. But we want to try to be a little bit different, so that people, because the normal ones are already in the supermarket, so they'll want something different at some stage. So we hope they'll take our ones.
Okay, someone just buying 3 packets there, so that looks really good. So can I just ask you, what's caught your eye?
Well, I think I overheard what you were saying, but it's the complete variety of kind of cereals that you don't actually get in the shops. As you said, the gluten-free muesli, tropical, the crunchy. I can see them in the shops, but not gluten-free. And the fact they're gluten-free obviously attracts me because I'm a celiac.
Brilliant, really appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed. Obviously with the mueslis comes the oats issue, and some people are a bit worried about the cross-contamination and so on. How can you reassure? Where are your oats coming from?
Our oats are from the Netherlands. We have our own farmers that grow our oats. We have organic and conventional oats. But we have a very strict policy with the farmers, so they have to be, like every field has to have that many meters before another field. They have to have special silos. They have to be, they take them from the field with a special machines they're not used for anything else. Our cleaner is only used for oats and for grass, so there's no cross-contamination there. And we have a special flaker for it, gluten-free, so we try the best for the best so that we won't have any cross-contamination.
Okay, now people may not have heard of you. I apologise if that's the case because I hadn't. But you are really big, aren't you? Roses is really big. I'm looking certainly in the Netherlands, which I think is where it's based, but also across Europe, countries as diverse as Germany, Denmark, Poland, Switzerland, Latvia, Czech Republic, Russia. You're right across, and also Dubai as well. There's quite a combination of different countries there.
We're starting in Hong Kong now. In July, we have the first big shop in Hong Kong that's starting with our product. But the UK is, we're starting now in the UK with 2 web shops, gluten-free foods and Goodness Direct.
So you're in or you're going to the Far East and the Middle East. That must be some developing markets for gluten-free, because several people are saying similar things.
Yeah. The Middle East is really growing a lot for gluten-free. And the Far East, I just tried, there was a show, the Food X, and I went there and I got a big customer there, so that's good. That's where you're going for.
And how do tastes change across all of those different countries, or don't they? Does everyone like muesli and these different flavours, or do you have to adapt and change?
Yeah, no, I think in the Far East it's difficult with mueslis, but Hong Kong has a lot of expats, so a lot of people from the UK, and they would like. In Hong Kong there are a lot of ex-UK people, so they would like their mueslis, but the Asian people are more into different types of breakfast, not a cereal.
Simone van Lanen from Roses Foods. They're based in the Netherlands, and I had an opportunity to try several of their cereals, and the lemon crisp. Now, let me tell you about the lemon crisp. Very impressed with that. Immediate lemon perfume as you open up the box and the packet inside. And also that's a flavour no one else is doing, and yet it kind of stands to reason, doesn't it? You want something bright and lemon and citrusy to wake you up in the morning, give you a bit of a tang on your taste buds. Not overpowering, but really nicely perfumed and a fantastic taste as well. And also, I should say this, it stays crunchy to the very last spoonful rather than going soggy in the milk, which I think is very important. And of course, don't forget that range of the kids' flavours and the kids' boxes as well that they do, Roses Foods. Now, they're available at glutenfree-foods.co.uk and goodness.co.uk as well. And it was great to catch up with Simone a few weeks ago. So that's the end of our series on breakfast cereals. Want to know what's going to be in next week's show? I'll tell you in a few minutes' time.
Follow us on Twitter. We're at G-Free Radio.
So, did you guess the subject of our Alternative Grains and Flours series? Yeah, I gave you a few clues right at the start of the programme, midway through the show as well. Do you know what it is? Well, it is something as basic as rice. Rice is nice. Why haven't we done rice before? It is surely one of the most staple foods around. It's an ancient food. It's the planet's most important plant, apparently, according to livingwithout.com. I mean, it's really cheap. There's tons of it. It fills you up. Oitza sativa. Yeah, that's its actual term, its Latin name. It appears in a staggering assortment of shapes, sizes, and colours, and you can find it in some of the finest culinary creations around the world, and yet is really, really humble at the same time. And looking into a little bit of history about rice, because it is really, really ancient. It hasn't really been adapted or changed too much. I say too much because we'll come to a few changes in a few moments' time, but it symbolises prosperity, beauty, fertility. Fertility? Why fertility? Well, if you think back, the tradition of throwing rice at a newly married couple, that's to bless them with the gift of fertility for obvious reasons. And I was really intrigued to read this, that the verb to eat in some Asian cultures is actually directly translated as to eat rice. Fantastic. Don't you just love things like that? Those little kind of quirky bits of knowledge, the little factoids. And save for Antarctica, rice grows on every continent in more than 100 countries. Today, the United States produces more rice than ever before, 19 billion pounds or roundabout. The leading states where rice is grown, California and Arkansas, Other gluten-free grains like in vogue quinoa and amaranth are getting to be the rage these days, but rice is the nutritional number one for a number of reasons. Some of those that we've just mentioned. It's easy to digest. It's got the highest content of B vitamins of any grain, especially brown rice, of course. There's all that fibre, there's vitamin E, potassium, zinc, iron, complex carbos, amino acids as well, and very often rice and beans. I mean, that's just a basic but really nutritious, complete protein meal, isn't it? You've got a whole meal there. And, of course, if you don't eat too much of it, as we don't tend to in Europe and North America and other Western countries, allergic reactions are less common. However, they are increasingly common in other countries where it is a staple part of the diet, as you can imagine. It's not restricted by seasonal availability. It's really versatile. I mean, when I say versatile, think of stir fries, paellas, rice pudding. You can add it to salads. You can take it to work. You can, once it's cooked, you can eat it hot. You can eat it cold. You can put it in something. You know what? There are around about. You can tell I'm really quite passionate about rice. It's really humble. There are 100,000 varieties of rice. Stone the crows. That was me slapping my forehead. And if you've seen me, I've got quite a lot of forehead to slap. But just think, 100,000 varieties, they fall into three main categories. Okay? You know them, don't you? Long, medium and short. Really basic terms. It's been around for millions of years, and yet three categories: long, medium, short. Thank you very much. However, if we dig down a little bit into the paddy field of information, as we will do this week, we're also going to be talking about rice in a couple of weeks again as well, because there's so much to tell you about rice. And a lot of it I did not know. It's so easy, isn't it, just to take it off the store shelf and to boil it up with some water or bung it in the microwave without actually thinking it through. But I was really intrigued, and I'm really quite passionate about rice now. And I think there is a market here for a shop or a company to... Have you noticed how many times I give you some marketing ideas or some brain waves of how you could develop a brand or a business? Yeah, we had that whole series, didn't we, last year on developing a gluten-free food brand. Last week I was suggesting another way that you could develop a gluten-free brand or business, selling food mail order, door-to-door, in conjunction with a farmer's market or a local butcher or a local farm. Yeah, and this week I'm suggesting maybe there is room in the market to import, to brand up several different kinds of rice. Let me tell you about some of the varieties on offer. There's 100,000 you can choose from. Okay, first of all, let's start off with the long grain rice. In other words, if it's long grain, it's got to be at least 3 times as long as it is wide. I love that. Long grain rice, it cooks up light, fluffy, it's less sticky, due to the higher levels of dry starch amylose. Jasmine and basmati are known as aromatics because the natural presence of 2-1-pyroline, that's a compound responsible for the taste and the smell. And you're most likely to find it in savoury dishes, salads, stir-fries, pilafs. We didn't mention pilafs earlier. Curries, of course. Indian, Mexican, Caribbean, Thai. You can tell all the foods from all these different cultures using rice, stuffing, fried rice as well. Let's have a little look at some of the different varieties, because I have not heard... I've heard of some of these. Several of them I haven't. Jasmine, yep, that's a given. Otherwise known as Thai fragrant rice, sweet floral aroma, tender texture, subtle nutty taste, and obviously it's named after the jasmine flower. Becomes slightly clingy when cooked. Basmati rice originates in the Indian Himalayas. They often call it the queen of fragrance rice. It's aged after harvesting to give it its pronounced nutty, popcorn-like taste and smell. It was once imported exclusively from India and Pakistan, but now it's grown in many, many other places, including the United States. You can tick those two off. You've heard of those, yeah? You're saying, Peter, tell me something I don't know. OK. Texmarti rice. Yeah, there you are, you see, Texmarti. That's a cross between American long grain rice and Indian basmati rice. Basmati, either which way. Have you heard of Texmarti? Guess where Texmati rice is grown. I don't know, Peter, you might be thinking. Scratching your chin. What about Texas? Absolutely. It's grown in Texas. It's got a stronger fragrance, stronger flavour than other US long grain rice, but it's less than pure Indian basmati. So that's I mentioned a few moments ago how some of the strains have been developed and changed, although the actual seed, the basic part of the rice has stayed the same for thousands of years. That's one of those. What about this one? Pecan rice. Okay. It's grown, it's another hybrid. It's grown in Louisiana. Rich, nutty flavour, which might remind you of pecans or pecans. Yeah? It's got nothing to do with nuts at all. Should quite say, if you've got a nut allergy, you're absolutely fine. Not a problem at all. And also, let's finish off by talking about Wahani rice. This is a creation of the Lundberg family farms in Northern California. Domestic Wahani is russet-coloured because of its brilliant red bran layer. Slightly chewy. It splits when it's cooked. And it tastes like buttery popcorn, apparently. Yeah? Those are just, 5 of the 100,000. In a couple of weeks' time, we'll tell you about some of the medium grain rices and the short grain rices, which are also fantastic. And do you see what I mean? What about having a range of rices that you import, which have all these different subtle flavours and the aromas, and you do different things with them? You go to the store, you see about 4 or 5. That's it, isn't it? That's it. Now, you're probably thinking, Peter, why are you going to be keeping us in suspense for a couple of weeks before you tell us more about these rices? Yeah? Why can't you just tell us next week? I'm in suspense. I am on the edge of my seat. And I'll tell you why. Because next week, we've got another of our special shows. We've got a very special edition because, look at the date, look at your calendar, look at your phone, look at your diary. Yeah? February the 14th is fast approaching. So we're going to be having a special Valentine's edition of the G3 radio show. So you have booked your table, haven't you? Yeah? Jolly good. You know, you've got a few days to think about that, about the present. You know, I'm giving you good advance notice. Don't let down the other half in your life. So a special Valentine's edition of the programme next week with some tips and tricks about eating out when you are gluten-free and also about finding love when you're gluten-free as well. So that's next week. Until then, take care and eat safely.
And that was the G3 Radio Show with Peter Stewart. And you. Thanks for listening. And remember, until next time, be good, be healthy, and be G3.